Yes, yes. Is it good? Maybe first with whatever you want, like all.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing, testing.
Okay.
Hello, 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 hello.
I think it sounds good.
Yeah,
All right.
mine and mine
You want to try this one?
and
1, 2.
mine. Is it working?
Yeah, I think
It works?
wireless mic works. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
It's open.
Testing. 1, 2.
Sounds good.
I guess, Lena, we will wait for you to green light where we start.
I think your mic sounds good. I'll just put it on
The other
even
side.
further up.
Okay,
No.
okay.
So it's closest. So you two are mic'd up, and if anyone else has to talk, you grab the wireless mic.
Maybe, Christopher, you can exchange places with
Yeah,
Pantelis because you have a mic and Pavel and Pantelis don't.
Yeah, that's better. Okay. Thank you very much.
We are? We are already online.
Are we online already?
All right,
Yes.
perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone, for this afternoon session webinar held in Athens. The topic of today's webinar is the successful family content based on a case study that we will soon reveal which film we will talk about. I just want to say that that's a continuation of the last year's webinars that were held here about the young audience films and content for youth that is now being produced. It was last year we had few case studies based on also like young people films, and this year we have slightly different case study, but I will keep it secret still. Yeah, basically I hope we will. I'm actually curious myself if there is any golden recipe for a successful family content, family film. But before we start, my name is Joanna Solecka. I'm a film marketing strategist, working a lot with young audience films, and here I'm joined by this amazing group of panelists that are representing different stages of the whole film cycle, starting with Pavel from the film school, Pantelis, the film festival, representing the film festival, and Christopher being a director, producer. So we'll talk about the three different perspectives. But before we start, can you quickly introduce yourself?
I'll start. So hello, thank you for hosting this panel and having us here in Athens. My name is Pavel Jech, and I'm a professor at a film school in California. The name is Chapman University. It's considered to be one of the top film schools in the United States, according to The Hollywood Reporter. And I'll talk about the training process, but before that, I was also the dean of the National Film Academy in Prague. And in the Czech film industry, I've also worked as a writer, a screenwriter, but not for children's films.
Hello, everyone. Well, thank you for having me here. I'm Pantelis Panteloglu. I'm the artistic director of Olympia International Film Festival for Children and Young People that takes place here in Greece since 1997. And following up from this hat, I have another hat I'm here with today, which is that I'm the president of the European Children's Film Association, an organization which consists of 170 members in 43 countries, representing, in a way, people who are into production, distribution, film exhibition, mainly through festivals, but also in film education. So I have an overview of some things that I think are relevant here.
Perfect. Christopher? You have your microphone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. Thank you for having me. My name is Christopher Roos, and I'm a producer, director. And can I reveal, because you were so secret about
you can
what
reveal
project we're going to talk about. So a couple of years ago, I made a film called Too Old for Fairy Tales. And we're going to use that as a case study today. Show 3 clips, and I also do movies and series for adults. But since the first release of Too Old for Fairy Tales, it went really well with the audience. So we did a second part, and now we just finished the third part of the movie, and it's going to be released next year. And it's in every movie there's a serious topic, something to talk about when you leave the cinema. But at the same time, we try to add some humor and some so it's an entertaining film, but with a serious topic, and try to deal with this in a serious way, and not try to do a children's movie, meaning colorful and moving the camera left and right, just to be serious and take
It's a
the audience
priority.
seriously.
I started talking about the recipe, I guess. But before we enter into that,
Sorry,
we,
I was supporting you. I'll keep it short.
I would like, there is this, I wouldn't call it a specific genre, but a specific type, or that is, it's called films for young audiences. And I wanted to ask you, Pavel, how these specific type kind of films, kind of content is seen right now by the students. What is your opinion about it?
Great question, because I see we also have students here. So people that are attracted to the cinema, they all have different ideas of what type of film they'd like to make. But the training in the film schools is usually an encouragement of the film students, those that are focusing on the writing and on the directing especially, to tell personal stories. It's not that the industry makes only auteur films that are personal stories. That's actually a very small percentage of the films that are made in the world. But most film students are trained this way, and some end up on that path, and then others find their other path. So it's not that children's cinema is neglected. It's basically that all genres are optional. So students focus on their personal stories, and if someone happens to say, I want to make a crazy comedy, or I want to make a thriller, or I want to make a horror film, and not always do they want to do that, the school will support them, but it doesn't provide specific training in any genre, including young person's cinema. Now that said, because of this focus on the personal short story, many students, because they are writing sincerely from experience, do focus on youth stories. Perhaps they have some poignant memory from their past. That's very common. Something happened in their family, or they encountered something traumatic, or there was just some change that moved them in their personal history. And so very often students do work with stories that are about young people. They might not think of it as that sort of genre, but they are approaching it seriously. They want to tell a good story. They want to engage the audience. Perhaps they want us to even laugh a little bit. Perhaps they want it to be more tragic. But they are seriously engaged in telling a story, and it involves young people, which means actors who are less than 16, sometimes as young as even 5 or so. So that is common in film schools. And I'll say one thing that I noticed having moved to California about 8 years ago, which has probably the most developed film industry in the world, or the most focused and most, in terms of all the professionalism It's probably, I'm not saying the cinema is the best in the world, but it's the most advanced industry. And because of that, coming from a small industry in Czech Republic, where students also would often want to make stories based on children. In this case, it's not the guerrilla filmmaking style of go out, make the movie, do it any way you can. Because we are in Hollywood is calling, but because we're in Hollywood, we actually at my school and other schools similar to ours, we teach a certain professionalism of working with children. So that means that even on a student film, a student is asked to hire a position called a studio teacher. This is basically a monitor who's qualified, who's been trained or has a certification to see that to monitor that the children are not put into any unethical situations or asked to do things that children shouldn't do. They also provide education. That's why they're called a teacher. They even teach on it. So this type of position is already on a student film, which is great training for if they decided to make youth-oriented cinema in the future. And also they must adhere to guidelines of actors, the labor laws for young actors, which are different, obviously, by age than it is for adult actors. So there's different categories of ages, how much time an actor can be on set, how much time they can spend there. So at least in a place like California, where there's many film schools and students from around the world, there is training substantial training for making children's cinema without a focus on the genre itself.
Okay, great. But then, Pantelis, do you, having such a knowledge about what is happening in Europe in terms of young audience films, do you know if that's also being adapted here in Europe in terms of working with young actors? Is that a part of a curriculum or?
I think in terms of production, you mean if there is a similar process? I think that there is actually there are similar rules about how underage people work in all countries. It's not the same rules. It's a little bit more complicated than it is, I think, in the US. But I don't really have a very detailed something very detailed to say on that now. But what we do see also in Europe is what Pavel already said, that younger people who are in film schools tend to not think about people who are a little bit younger than them, and it makes sense. Mm-hmm. I remember Sanette Naye, the former Cinekid director, discussing this issue one time, and she said, okay, they don't care about kids because they are, when you are 20, 22, 25, you don't care about children. You're trying to get yourself away from that age. You're in a process of growing older and becoming a real adult person. So you don't want to look into the past. You're looking into your present, sure, into your future. And this question comes over a little bit later. What should we do with kids, and what do kids watch? So when you get your own kids, you start wondering about this stuff. And Sanette's idea was that, okay, if they are already successful, if they've made it, then of course they're not changing direction. But if they're not successful, of course there are so many people who finish film schools and never make any kind of success with their film. So if they are not successful, they are not in the industry. Right. So generally there is a lack of interested people. But this doesn't mean that we don't have content, or we don't have audiences that are interested into watching films that make sense for them.
Of course. But then my question would be, what do you do as the Association of Festival to attract talents to these kind of stories?
I think it's a two different directions. One direction is is the audience. So we have to identify our audience, and we have to see if there are children in various different age groups that are interested to watch films, also in the setting of cinema. This is pretty clear. We know it. It's, I mean, there are no really numbers on that, but it's very, I think it's very clear also in the commercial distribution, but also in the festival world. And then there is always the issue of how you bring in competent professionals into getting into this field. But I have to say that with the ECFA, we have a database of films. This database of films that have been screened in festivals or are related to younger ages. So we have this database going on since 1999, and it's been updated as we move on through the years. And at this moment, this database has 3,500 films, feature films,
Okay.
plus some thousands of short films that have been used with younger audiences, have been screened to younger audiences, and it totally made sense. So there is this misunderstanding of what we're talking about when we're talking about younger audiences. They're kids, they are, you know, they are not, they don't understand much. It has to be impressive. It has to be colorful. It has to be very, you know, like an outline of a sketch. No, it's not like that. Films for children have to take children seriously. And if you do that, then you most certainly have a success like Christopher did, I think, in a way. And from the point of view of a festival, from festival people who are actually dealing with complete films that are already there, it's very clear. I don't think it's that clear in the production side. And then there's also an issue with definitions and an issue with statistics, for example. Do we get statistics on children films? Is it possible to get statistics? Within Europe, for example, we have the European Audiovisual Observatory, which is preparing statistics for the industry in Europe. They don't have a separate category for children. We're discussing with ECFA with them to see if it's possible. But overall, numbers is something totally needed when we're talking on an industry level, but then it's also the experience of having actual people watching actual films in actual cinemas, or even by themselves. And when you get to this experience, then you most definitely have a very different approach that I think is very revealing to people who come from the filmmaking world and meet an audience that they didn't expect.
But it's interesting what you mentioned about the separate category that's actually not existing as a seriously treated category, because that's we see in statistics, in data, but we also see it in terms of recognition for the awards, for example. They are not, you know, there is no Young Audience Award at the European Film Awards, not to even mention Oscars, which always, you know, position the films on the other level, let's say. How was it for you, Christopher? Because you didn't think you will have so much to say at the very, you know, when you were starting your career, I guess you didn't imagine yourself as the director of the young audience films. How was it for you?
No, I wanted to do psychological drama, black comedies, and you know, those kind of movies. Not family and not children, because it was uncool. It was like, this is not cool. This was.
So when it became cool then?
I think. I can only speak for Poland now, because that's my experience. When I become a parent.
So that's Pantelis was right?
Yeah. And you know, looking on the streamers, okay, what can we watch together with the family? There was not so many options for intelligent and fun movies. So when I got the script and I started to read it, I realized that, oh, maybe this could be something that we can show to our children. So it started out from a personal experience, and then when it was a success, and we shot the film in a way that is treating, I believe, the audience, young audience, seriously.
How young? What kind of age segmentation are we talking about here?
Well, the protagonists, they are in the first film, they are about 12, 13. So a little bit younger up to that, and it turned out also that a little bit older also. Yeah. So after that movie, and it was a success in Poland, it changed a little bit. And then now I see, because I'm also an expert, I've been invited for the Polish Film Institute as an expert evaluating projects in development. There are many serious directors that did more serious movies, dramas and crime thrillers that now turn into family movies, because I think that they see that it is actually kind of cool if you can educate and you can show something that is beautiful, that has a meaning and has a topic that you can talk about. So those 2 hours in the cinema is not only killing time so we can stuff ourselves with popcorns and then forget about it, go home. So we actually have something to talk about. So I see that there is a shift. It's becoming a little bit cool, I think.
Great. And then in terms of professionalization, what do you think, like Too Old for Fairy Tales, that's the film that we're talking about that had already part 1, part 2, now you just shot third part. What do you think, how this really, I mean, there are more directors that are prone to do these kind of type of stories, but probably also investors and money that are also, and distributors coming on board, right? Because they've seen that there is a market. That's what I understood.
Yes, I mean, that, you know, to be honest, I think producers and distributors, they look at the numbers and they see, oh, this film had 650,000 admissions, calculating, what's the MG, what's the budget? This makes sense. So in the last years in Poland, most of the family movies actually make money. So it's become attractive because families want to go, and they go, the whole families, maybe 4 or 5 persons buy tickets and go to the cinema. I see there's a change that actually family movies and children's movies can make money.
And also there is other windows, so not only cinema, but then also your film went directly to Netflix after the cinema release, right?
Yes, I mean the sources, I will reveal how we do it now, but keep it inside this room. So the magic recipe in Poland to finance a family movie is to have a distributor that gives money to the production, have a pre-buy from a streamer like Max, Disney, Netflix, and get funds from the Polish Film Institute. And it's approximately 30%, more or less. Yeah, that's the way you can finance a movie in Poland, at least.
But then Netflix came. It's not a Netflix original. It's they buy it only based on the license, right?
Yes. And the first part that we did, it really turned out well because, to be honest, Netflix, they were not so interested in the beginning because they read the script. I hope I don't offend anybody at Netflix now, but they said, okay, this is a nice story, touching, but it's about this overweight boy who has a mother ill in cancer. It doesn't sound so much fun. I mean, it doesn't sound like entertainment. So first, when it went to the cinemas and it went well in the cinemas, then it was a good buzz around the movie, and it went well on Netflix. So they kind of changed also and said, oh, I mean, this could work. So financing the second part was much easier than the first part.
Since we are talking so much about the story, let's see your first clip, maybe, you know, so you also know what we're talking about.
And I can just short introduction to. So the first clip, the story is about this boy called Valdemar. And his mother is going away to the hospital because she's ill in cancer, and she's very overprotective of her son, and she invites her aunt to take care of him during her time when she's away. And we soon find out that the aunt, she's not protective at all. She's a little bit crazy, and she kind of lets him do everything that he wants, and And it's also a little bit dangerous for the kid because he's used to his overprotective mother. So this is the scene, the first scene when she arrives to their apartment.
No cześć kochana.
No, cześć.
Ty nawet nie najgorzej wyglądasz. Korpo lala pipi. Straszny kawał mam do was z tego Płocka. No 500 kilometrów, ale wiesz, że machnęłam to na raz. Po prostu, ale ludzie fatalnie jeżdżą. Absolutnie fatalnie. Powiem ci szczerze, że im lepszy samochód, tym gorszy kierowca. A poza tym cały czas gdzieś po drodze są jakieś roboty. Oni albo malują pasy, albo obcinają gałęzie, słuchaj. Albo coś tam porządkują, jakby tego wszystkiego nie mogli zrobić w nocy, kiedy ludzie śpią normalnie i porządnie. Tylko robią to w dzień, jak każdy się gdzieś śpieszy, ma coś do załatwienia.
Mógłby mi o niej kilka słów. O ciotce mojej mamy, ale jakoś nie mam mocy. To załamanie nerwowe.
Walduś, ciocia przyjechała.
Przecież bym nie zgadł.
No cześć, kochany. Jesteśmy troszeczkę przy kości, co?
Jesteśmy troszeczkę nienormalne, co?
Cześć, chłopaku. Ale ty masz tu porządek, Tereska. Jakbyś na księdza po kolędzie czekała. A co, ty nic innego nie robisz, tylko sprzątasz, sprzątasz i sprzątasz? No, powiem ci szczerze, że w tym domu to tak, no... brakuje troszkę życia. Solka. No fuj!
Moja psychika tego nie wytrzyma.
Które do lodówki?
If we like the aunt,
Yes.
not in the beginning, but
Right.
then we understand that she kind of, this is what he needs to stand on his own legs and not be so dependent on his mother.
What happened next? What happened with the story, and how did you think about it? You know, because there are so many different elements that people, like the young audiences, were not used to in Poland. We had a huge success in Poland. I'm also Polish until '89, and after '89, we didn't really have a lot of successes in terms of family cinema. And then comes Too Old for Fairy Tales and really shapes the whole market in a totally different way.
What's the question?
What happened? How did you what was the effort and how people reacted? What was really what was the element that, I mean, you were already talking about treating your audience seriously, but also in terms of thematic, and also there is a sense of humor as well.
I think that the film works for parents and for kids at the same time. So when you're a parent, you can go with your kid and watch it, and you're not bored to death, or just feel that this is so stupid, and you kind of doze off. This is what parents told me after the screening, and this clip is, I think, also interesting because we use master shots in the movie, and it's okay. Thank you. So we used a lot of master shots, meaning not cutting so much in the scenes, and this was also something that I think was different from normally in family movie, children movies. You don't tell this way, and this is something that also the audience experienced, and adults or parents said that, oh, it's kind of nice to watch a movie where the tempo is a little bit slower and there's more space for thinking, more space for emotions than, for example, movies like Lego, the movie, where it's just your heart rate is like do when you watch it, because the music is pumping and it's cutting left and right all the time. And this was also a big discussion during the production, because the producer was very, very alarmed and asking us, for example, in this scene, okay, nice master shot, so can we see it with the close-ups? And when we said, but there are no close-ups, we kind of had a difficult discussion. And also that the colors are a bit muted and it's slow. So there were big concerns that this would be a boring, artsy-fartsy movies like that nobody wants to watch.
Yeah, Pavel,
I mean, you asked the question do we like the ant character? So I just like to answer that question that yes, I do like the ant character. And maybe it shows a little bit of that secret sauce of that you're talking about how to do it, because the ant character definitely reflects a type of person that I would recognize from that region of the world, and so she's very enjoyable. To maybe even more broadly, we recognize her from life. But I also have a sense that she kind of addresses a certain archetype from a fairy tale. So it's kind of bridging about that fairy tale world and the realism that we appreciate, that a lot of, especially older audiences, would like to acknowledge. So in just a small clip, I already see that kind of that balance happening. And so yes, I do like that character, to your question.
and you, Pantelis, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the problem with films made for children, with films that underestimate children, is that they generally do not have good characters. Actually, they don't have, and especially they don't have good adult characters. Adults are always caricatures, and they mean nothing. They are, just overacting. People doing very so. Obviously, we need to see real people or people we can relate with. And this is how it works, actually, I think. Or we can see, normal people in an extraordinary situation. Here we have a normal situation and normal people in it. So, but they just have to face it. So why not? She's coming in from another. She brings in her own point of view, and she's someone who's stranger in the beginning, and then becomes little by little becomes, relevant. Also for the boy, he doesn't. In the spoiler, in the end of the film, he doesn't have the same opinion about his aunt, of course.
Yeah.
So there's a process there, which is something that we need to see happening in a film. And when this happens, it works. It's very simple. But we don't have we need to have like an ecosystem that would support it. We need someone that would allow this shot instead of a very usual approach of the close-ups. If someone told you, no, you can't do it, then you should be able to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem with it. It's not, and in many cases, also here you have, the people who want to do it like that. Maybe someone doesn't want to do it like that, and you have to make your arguments on it. I think if you look at it from the point of view of the audience, the argument is already there. We don't really need to articulate.
But someone needs to prove it works first, and you need to have, as you said, arguments, or really be very sure what you are.
Or produce it yourself, maybe.
From marketing perspective, this scene is actually very particular because all of the three characters are representing different target segmentations. So you have very young audience, then you have parents audience, and then you have also grandparents audience, and that's exactly where also the success lies, I think, for this film, that everyone finds their own respective situations. I was also wondering, Pantelis, that's a question to you again, if you have any statistics, who is your audience at the festival?
Generally, festivals, and I'm not talking only about Olympia, also about other festivals in Europe, they're trying to segment their audiences, let's say, in two broader categories. Obviously, you can have selection for very young children, you can have a selection for a little bit older. If you're trying to make a selection for very young children, you also have the issue that you cannot have feature films, or you cannot have very long duration of a slot. Okay, so you're going for smaller slots, which brings us to short films mostly. But as kids grow up, they can watch feature films, and I think that we can say that more or less it's a different world to discuss about kids that are in high school and which is not children anymore, and a different discussion about younger children. And then within that, I've brought with me something that's it's a little bit of data, which is interesting. There was this research done last year, actually. It was organized by KidRegio, which is a German organization, lobbying organization, more or less. And this is a research, a qualitative, mostly qualitative research made in 12 countries. Also, Greece was part of it. And then Belgium, Estonia, Germany, Italy, Montenegro, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Switzerland, and Wales. So it was 12 countries, and we ended up with something that was brought. It was made by a Danish firm that's doing market analysis and market research, actually. Well, an agency and their Publicum section, which is doing exactly this, and they have some. They tried to sum up the research was for kids 7 to 11. One of the things is that 7 is different world and 11 is a different world, so not the same thing. They are defining films in a different way. Films, what is a film? Film is not something that we watch in the cinema and it's 1.5 hour. Film is a long video, a long YouTube video or something like that. So they start on platforms maybe. They start on streamers. They start on different approaches. But one of the most important things for me is that they want characters before plot. This is one of the things the research ended up with, and they don't want to be taught about anything. They want to discover. So no pointing fingers. And when you're thinking like that, and I think most of the festivals are thinking like that, you have to fragment the audience in age groups that also make sense from a psychological, from a developmental point of view. So you need a little bit of having in mind a little bit of psychology, a little bit of developmental psychology, a little bit of pedagogical issues. And then you can come up with anything at any age as long as you have prepared the environment for that.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say no to anything, because it's exactly this is the challenge from the point of view of the festival programmer, that you need to find how you're going to bring in something that's already there, it's a film, to an audience that's already there. You know that they need it, but they don't know it yet. So, and at the same time, you shouldn't be pointing fingers that this is the right thing to watch. So it's a very, very creative process, which in the end cannot really be put into paper and say, okay, this is what we're doing for younger children, this is what we're doing for older children. I think generally, one world is this 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, which is younger children. Can they read? Can they watch a Polish film in Greece? Do we have to dub it or not? If it's subtitled, then they should be maybe a little bit older. So you have all these issues that are related with access. Germany is Germany. They dub everything, but in other countries it's not like that. Of course, Poland has a lot of dubbing nowadays, I think.
Less and less. It was more before.
Yeah. But at the same time, in smaller markets, it's not easy to do it because it's also costly. So you end up trying to create a recipe that makes sense for the specific audience going to a festival. So we're not talking about the market in general. We're not trying to do industry stuff. We're trying to fulfill the needs of our audience, but we need to be close to our audience to see how it is. I think many of the conclusions and arguments and deductions of people from festivals could be easily adapted into broader strategies. Usually, they are not part of the strategy, and I think people in promotion, people in marketing have to learn a lot from the people in festivals, and also people in production, and also people when they are in the beginning when they are trying to write something. But I don't think we have I can set write down a set of rules how to do it. It's not It's not like that, because it's a creative process.
At the same time, it's young audience is one of the most demanding and the most hard to get.
And dynamic also.
And dynamic, and as you said, the age segmentation is not that easy because you can have a much more mature 8 years old than 10 years old in some cases, and they would need different elements. How did you think about it, Christopher, when you were directing this film? You were not producing it, but in terms of your director's approach to thinking about the audience, the younger audience, because from the parents' perspective, I understand you wanted them to have something to talk about, but for kids, what did you think about it? There was also a gaming element in the film, no? That we didn't see in this clip, but maybe in the next one, I don't know.
Do you want an honest answer?
Of course.
No, slightly kidding, but there is some truth in it. I didn't think about the audience. I just wanted to tell an honest story and not try to, how can we make this work? I was thinking about this movie like any other series or film that I've made, that it has to be within the frames that we are expecting for that kind of movie. This has to work. It's not completely true saying that I didn't think about the audience, but I tried to release myself from thinking that, okay, this is a children's movie, so everything has to be so correct and educational and not over, the jokes here can't be too ironic, satiric, too dark. It has to be like a balance in it. So yes, sorry, my answer is kind of whimsy now, but I thought about the audience, but not in a stereotypical, normal way. I tried to be honest with the material and the audience. We have another clip that I think weaves into what we're talking about now, because we were talking about in the pre-production. The film is called Too Old for Fairy Tales, and people around Valdi, our main protagonist, are kind of lying to him and saying that everything is okay with your mother. She's just going to the hospital to have some tests, and then she will be back and everything will be fine. Don't worry, please don't worry. And he, as an intelligent boy, seeing that this is something fishy here. So he escapes from his aunt at night, and he finds out where his mother is, at what hospital, and he wants to see her. So there is a clip where he sees her without her hair, and he understands that she's more ill than they say that she is. And this was also something that we decided. I say we because it was not only my decision, with the producer and so on, that let's not be afraid of this. Like let's show it. We think that the young audience can handle this, because we're doing a movie called Too Old for Fairy Tales, so we don't want to tell you fairy tales. We want to tell you something real.
Let's watch the second clip.
Co ty tu robisz?
Ja do mamy. Teresa Banaś. Ma badania.
A z kim tu przyszedłeś?
Z tym panem.
We were talking about professionalization of the young actors. Can you also refer to that in because that's a very hard scene to do.
Yes, and since we're honest here, we were looking for this protagonist to play the main part, this actor, young actor, and we're doing like 170 or something casting, tried 170 kids for this role, and we had 5 that we felt, well, I felt that it could maybe work, but it wasn't the right thing. And the producer was saying like, Chris, come on, I mean, we're shooting soon. We need to have an actor for the main part. And in a desperate situation, I called the scriptwriter, Agnieszka, and I asked her, can you help me out? I mean, do you know maybe somebody that, could work? And she said, yeah, my neighbor here in Krakow, he has a son who kind of looks like the part. So we tried him out, and he had no experience at all in front of the camera. He had never been to a casting, nothing. But he was very convincing. He was very natural. And so we tried out, and we said, let's do it with him. And the distributor and the other guys, they were like devastated because he was a complete amateur, never in front of, and we wanted to base the whole film around him, and he's basically in every scene. But the sad part, and also the real part in this, was that Maciek Karaś, the boy playing Valdi, he actually had a similar situation in his life, where his mother passed away just a couple of years ago in cancer. And so it worked at the sessions we had, but we were very concerned that this will be too hard for him and can be hurtful. So we had several consultations with a child psychologist, and going back and forth with this and supporting him with psychological help and acting coach, we decided together with his father and him that he is strong enough that he can talk about it in this movie. So we did it that way.
So that particular scene that I guess was one of the hardest one.
Yes, because his reaction was very natural, because he was thinking about his own experience.
I have to say I was very touched. I was watching it many times before, but I'm still getting very touched by this scene. And I think as you also said, Pantelis, the emotional value, the emotional scale or is something that you cannot fake it. it needs to be honest and especially with kids, it's something very hard to achieve, no, on the set.
Yes, of course, because they don't have the tools to work with emotions.
So how do you work? Because Pavel said that there is a professionalization. There are some structures, how to work with young actors. How does it look in Europe or in Poland?
Well, I think now also with the streamers, they force upon the production certain rules that need to be followed. So if you do something with children, there needs to be a children's psychologist. If there is some nudity or some sex scenes, I'm talking about mature actors, there need to be an intimacy coordinator. So I think also there's a shift in the late years now that is much more professional. It's not like back in the days when let's shoot it and we figure it out. Yeah, and here with Maciek, the boy playing Valdi, it was a day-to-day balancing, like how much can we do now or how much do we need to back up, and many of the scenes he wasn't there. For example, like hard scenes when he was getting tired and so on, we shot his side if we didn't do a master shot, but if like here where we can edit, so we shot his side first and then we let him go so he can go home or go to his trailer and chill, and the other actors were acting without him. So we needed to do certain tricks like that in order to fit within the hours, because in Poland you can only work 6 hours a day with the kid. So you can fill out the rest of the hours with other scenes and other shots with adult actors.
Since we have some students also in the audience, I would like to also save some time for Q&A, but maybe before that, can we watch the last clip? You have one more, right?
Yes, one more clip. And this is a clip where it goes the other way around, where Valdi is lying to his aunt about a stolen bicycle and what happened. And this was not in the script, it was him telling her aunt like a made-up story what happened. But we decided to visualize it, to add some fun elements in order not to be so serious and sad, through the whole film, to add some rock and roll to it in order. And this I say in the contrary to what I said in the beginning, that I didn't want to use a lot of fireworks, just not to bore the audience, but at the same time you have to loosen up sometimes and use some fireworks because it's fun. So I wanted to show you the last clip.
Gdzie jest mój rower? A może postawiłem go gdzie indziej? Pewnie od tego nagminnego wysiłku fizycznego magnes mi się wytrącił i mózg się zakwasił. Wszystko w nim sfermentowało i pomieszało. Co ja ciotce powiem? Że co? Na 12 kilometrze, jak mi się skurcz w palcach nóg zrobił, no normalnie, ze zmęczenia, magnes mi się z organizmu wytrącił. Zatrzymałem się i patrzyłem na klucz ptaków lecących po niebie. Bardzo piękny widok. I wtedy nagle szczeniaczek w kanale, biało-czarne łatki z gamle. Podałem mu gałąź i chwycił on zęby, bo jeszcze miał zęby, jeszcze mu nie spróchniały. I wtedy było ich 3. Jednego musiałem tak, drugiego musiałem tak, trzeciego w półobrotu. Na szczęście wszystko dobrze się skończyło. Tylko rower mi ukradli. Jak tego szczeniaka ratowałem, ukradli mi.
Ale Waldusiu, ja jestem z ciebie bardzo, bardzo dumna. A o rower się nie martw, bo widocznie złodziej tak sobie tylko troszeczkę pojeździł, a potem odstawił pod klatkę do Staszka. A jak szłam pobiegać, to po prostu zabrałam go na górę. Więc, no wiesz.
And this was natural laughter because she started to giggle when he told that story, and the reverse shot on him, he's like, I see that he almost starts to giggle, but we left it in because it's fun.
And the final takeovers, like from this experience of doing the film, that wasn't like aimed for being a big success, like it became, and then also on Netflix globally, because that's a local story, but that it actually was very well received everywhere. And
yeah, when I was last year, I was in Mongolia, in Ulaanbaatar, scouting for another project, and I had a meeting with an actress, and she brought her daughter to translate. And I asked the daughter, but what's your favorite movie? And she said, Too Old for Fairy Tales. I was like, wow. And she said, I watched it 15 times. I was like, wow, somebody, this girl in Mongolia is,
But did she know that you are the director?
No, then I said, that I did that movie. She was like, oh, yeah, autograph and picture. And then all of a sudden it changed. But experience like that, and also that the film, it was also in the US top 10. So it was
Top 10 international films, right?
Yeah, among the international films. But together, I mean, the top 10 was I think Ryan Reynolds and Tom Cruise, some movie, and then Maciek Karaś from Krakow, Poland, who had never been in a movie before, and they were next to each other like the US top 10. So yeah, nobody knew that it will have this impact on people worldwide. So it was quite a surprise, because it was it's a low budget movie, and we were thinking that we were making a really small, narrow movie for the Polish audience, and it was a surprise that it worked worldwide.
So if we're going back to the golden recipe, or if there is one, but just like maybe like the elements of it that makes it more probable to succeed, so it would be like being honest.
Yeah, somebody said, a good story well told. It's that simple and that hard. Sometimes just the stars align. I mean, I know this doesn't sound like a recipe, but sometimes when you get the right actor in the right role, this also changed. Everything changed when we found Maciek, because the very experienced actresses, Dorota Kolak and Karina Gruszka, mother and the aunt, we had a different vision of it, how to act. It was supposed to be much more extravagant, much bigger. But when we did screen test with Maciek, and he was just sitting there and the camera was approaching, we're like, wow, this looks like a movie. They said to me that, Chris, we need to rethink the whole thing, the whole way we act, because he's gonna outshine us all. So we need to like keep it down and just try to be on the same level. And fortunately, they are so experienced and humble also that they did that. So I think that the recipe is, of course, to have a good story, and shout out here to Agnieszka, who wrote the script based on her book, and have a good story and believe in the vision, believe in the actors that you choose, that they will connect with the audience and treat the audience seriously, like we mentioned several times. And it sounds easy, but it's harder when you have the producer, distributor, and everybody has an idea how this should look like in order for it to sell. So to stick to your guns and stick to that vision, it's harder than you think. But
Also, Pantelis added the good adult characters that are normal, that it is the ones that you can refer to.
Yeah, absolutely. This, I think we need it also. We need it also for in order to respect the older part of the audience, because as Chris said, there are people coming in with families, so you have to respect also the older people in the room, in the cinema or at home or wherever. It's important to be real. I think being honest and being real is something that makes sense, even in the most extraordinary story that's out of this world. I think this is the way to do it, and give the freedom to the artists to do their work, and then the producers and the other people can talk about it, but really they shouldn't be deciding everything. Actually, I think, because from an industry point of view, if you want to be, there's no guarantee for a success. This goes not only for this film, but even for very, very big films that have, 150 times more money than you have, probably. You see, Disney is producing something that's very big, that it's not a success. It cannot be guaranteed that it's going to be a success. So we need to find and to provide a little bit of space to experiment also. And it's not really about applying specific rules. It's about allowing space and time for people to work and produce something that makes sense. And it's a very collective game, The cinema filmmaking is a very, very collective game. We need also to see this aspect. So it's not that someone should be deciding everything and then everything is going to be happening according to what the market needs. Because the market, what is the market? Especially in younger audiences. How are we sure that the producers know what the markets or the distributors know what the market needs, what children want? How do we, what kind of conclusion is this? I don't know. Yeah?
I agree with everything both of you said, of course, and a good story well told is absolutely essential. I'll just add some historical context, because you alluded to that before '89, the way Polish cinema looked for the youth audience, similar in Czechoslovakia, very much geared at the very classic fairy tale type of setting. But I was thinking, because this film, from the two clips, it's very clear that one of its concerns is about the truth. Like, it's, how do we tell the truth? How do we share the truth? And before '89, because these were communist societies, there was much more censorship. And so perhaps this is why the film industry focused more on these fairy tales, because that was a safe space, so to speak, to tell a truthful story. Because it's very interesting, like right after 1990, the same type of filmmakers were making the same type of films, but the audiences were rejecting them. They just weren't as popular. They weren't considered as good, even though the craft was there and the storytelling was there. So I think what you've successfully done in this is find a new context in which to tell the truth, where the audiences don't need that, and the children either don't need that artifice anymore to be communicated to.
I think your analysis is very spot on, especially with the cinema during censorship in Poland was great, because it forced filmmakers to use metaphors, fairy tales, in order to tell something that the censorship couldn't cut or say that this is not allowed. Yeah.
Let's hope we don't enter soon in the same censorship time.
Yeah.
thinking about what's happening outside.
But just one
yeah.
more thing on that topic. During the time when we released the film, we had a right-wing government in Poland, and the sit-ins when they were from the Polish Film Institute, when there was a film about a political subject, there was a full audience, and there was big debates what you can say and what you can't say. But with our film, it was like 3 people in the audience. Nobody cared. Some family movie. So there were like 3 people, like kind of half sleeping through the through the film. So we kind of got, in a way, it's also safe to use the fairy tales because they don't care. I mean, if it's political or if it's not, because it's just a family movie. But we know that it's not just. It's a very strong tool of communication.
I've heard that these 3 people were actually very touched by the story.
The ones sleeping? I don't know. I think that they looked like they were sleeping, but
All right, we
They
have
were
few.
hiding their tears.
maybe.
They were hiding their tears. Yeah, we have few minutes for questions. So you have director, producer, festival, programmer, director, and a professor from a US-based university.
I'm not a student, but I remain one perpetuity. Oh, thank you. What I want to say is that I do like the fact that you stuck to your guns and you shot the film in mediums and wides predominantly. I mean, I haven't seen the rest of the film, but from what I've seen on the screen so far, your opening shot in the first clip was like a panning shot that starts with the boy and ends with the boy, with a close-up of the boy, well, medium close-up of the boy. And I'm of the belief that cinema is about wides and mediums, and close-ups are a TV thing, which has been adapted quite in the wrong way in the film, in the cinematic medium we call cinema, right? I'm not saying that we shouldn't use close-ups, but cinematically, wides and medium close-ups are much more atmospheric and much more enticing, if I can say that, to my preference, of course. And I'm glad that you actually did it and you didn't do yet another film shown in close-ups just to manipulate emotion from the audience. And I think wides are much more compelling cinematically and atmospherically, and I did like that, what you did. And I'm gonna watch your movies if it's on Netflix, definitely, if I can catch it on.
It is.
Sounds very interesting. Is it?
If you just type in "Too Old for Fairy Tales," you will find it.
Yeah, I
on
will do.
Netflix.
If it's available in Greece, I will do it.
It is. It is.
It seems like a very good film.
Thank you for those kind words. Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, do we really need to tell if it's something emotional? Do we have to be on this close up? Sometimes a wide shot, when a lonely boy in a big city, you only see this. It's more emotional, I think, than the close up. So, yeah.
Any questions? Right.
Thank you. So I wanted to ask you, in my opinion, cinema is a definition of, So in my opinion, cinema is a definition of consider all factors in each stage, pre-production and production. And I wanted to ask you, because you generally work with younger people, whether it's kids, it's students, or it's your actors. So how do you communicate the consider all factors thing in each stage, maybe in screenwriting or maybe in how things are going to work out? Do you have something that, not as a recipe, but your experience tells you that works better in considering all factors while making a film or communicating this with younger people? How do you do that?
Could you define the factors? I mean,
consider all factors. Let's say like organizing, like let's say short film, like what things are you going to need or what's going to happen, or let's say writing a screenplay, how the story will have a continuity, stuff like that.
Want to start?
I guess the mic comes to me because we are working directly with kids. Usually, that's the normal thing that we are doing. We're trying to create opportunities where we can discuss about this issue actually. So within the context of the festival and many festivals actually across Europe and the world, children film festivals across Europe and the world have this process of having children juries, for example. So in our case, we have every year we have it's juries. They decide on awards, of course, but at the same time, this is a film analysis workshop. So you have to. We are there with a complete film, with complete films, and we are discussing how we are just trying to deconstruct see how we deconstruct the construction actually, because in the end, when you get to see the film, it's a specific construction, but it has been made in a specific way, considering all factors while planning. But when we are ending up with some kids to do something with them, we can either show them a film and discuss about, so deconstruct, or have them do similar stuff, which is the active child. So it's the child that actually gets the camera in the end, in some way, one way or another. So from the point of view of a festival that's trying to intervene, let's say, with younger audiences, it's not exactly about telling them everything. It's about putting them, having them stand in front of the question that film is a complicated, structured thing. There are different levels, but it would take a day to explain that in detail. We generally try to bring in children into the kind of a problematization of cinema. You cannot always do everything. In some cases, you know that you only have the child there for an hour and a half for a screening. So what can you do? You can open up the discussion, present something in the beginning, do a discussion in the end, like a Q&A or something. Then you can have kids that are with you for a longer time. So you can have a workshop, or you can have a jury that will be working for some days. And then we end up to the very obvious problem, which is how is film and audiovisual, and the audiovisual section in general, connected with formal education in all countries?
And here we are.
Really very long question, very long question, very difficult answers.
It would be great if you can also share your approach on that, but I also believe that part of your question will be answered with our next panel, because I feel that maybe you are also asking like how, if there is any changes, how it used to be in terms of communicating, so working with young upcoming talents. That it used to be, and now has anything changed? And that definitely will be answered by the next panel. But maybe you quickly, Pavel, you want to say something?
It's a good teaser for the next panel. Just to say very briefly, I mean, how it works in schools, and as a student, every step of the way of making a film is a little bit different than in the professional environment, because it's a group of students and a group of professors also discussing it as it's being done, and everyone giving their opinions, and everyone analyzing the situation as it's happening, because it's a learning process. And as that does not prepare one exactly for the professional environment, where really decisions need to be made very quickly for all sorts of reasons, as Christopher was also talking about, some decisions that had to be made for very pragmatic and quick reasons. But we can talk about that in the next panel.
But I understand that also your question is how to prepare for a movie, thinking about all these factors, so you don't make mistakes. Is that the right interpretation?
Yeah, maybe. Yes, maybe. What do you like? You have a child actor, or what do you say? What do you say to him? Maybe he won't think of something. I mean, I don't think of something, and I'm a student. So what do you use very specific? You use very specific. You say very specific things that the actor must do. You say you have this thing to do, and you find. Or you say like, be careful of this, and don't look at the camera, and don't do this and that. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's different from case to case, but I like to use a technique where you change somebody for somebody that you know. So, for example, if we were supposed to have a scene here, and you are playing my brother, say, and if I have a brother, I try to find or say to the actor that, look at him, is there something that your brother also has? Does he has a beard, or is he, talking in the same way, the voice is similar? And if they find the child actor, oh yeah, actually my brother is, then focus on that, and talk to your brother, so, and sometimes it's strictly technical, look left, look right, look sad, look left, and sometimes that works better than trying to be psychological and blah 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 about it, So it's from case to case. And we had a discussion yesterday about how many times you write a movie. You write it in a script, and then you write it on set, and then you write it in editing, right? So many of these decisions that you saw here were actually in the editing, or sometimes. Making a movie is one big compromise also. You have this beautiful thing in your head, and then you're at set and it's raining and you don't have time, and somebody's ill, blah blah blah, all those stuff, and you need to do something with it, because you can't say, we're not going to shoot today. So you find stuff, how you work it out, and you have to have a little bit of luck. And if you have luck, in my opinion, is dependent on to be brave sometimes, just risk it. Take some risk and try it out. Maybe it will work, maybe not, but at least you tried, or at least you risked it. So, for example, in why the camera is pretty static in my movie, because in the beginning we wanted to do more fancy stuff with the camera, but our focus puller, he was very old, and he started to have problems with his sight. So when we did too fast moves with the camera, he often missed the focus. So we needed to cool it down in order to have a sharp picture. And I was like, oh no, this is terrible. But then I looked at the shot and I was like, yeah, but maybe it's better. Maybe we don't have to do this fancy, dolly in or dolly out and stuff like that.
Thank you very much.
This is probably mostly for Pavel. It seems to me that before Netflix, before streamers in general, there were far fewer opportunities for young people to see family films, children's films from anywhere other than the country they lived in, with the exception of the American domination of film markets everywhere. Are you seeing in your current students a new perspective because they've had access? I mean, I just looked up, I can watch Too Old for Fairy Tales on my Netflix from the US. So are you seeing new perspective?
Yeah, I'll answer. It's not completely to children's cinema, but at my school we have because we're located in Hollywood, so we have a lot of guests from the industry visiting all the time. And the guests that probably most excited our students was the cast of a series which they only could watch in subtitles, which before the students would never even watch a subtitle product. And it was the cast of Squid Game. When they came to our school, a Korean series, the students just went like crazy. They were just like, they were ecstatic. It was like Beatlemania. And I don't think that would have happened like 5 years ago or 10 years ago before Netflix, because students' reach was, as you said, more localized, and something, even with subtitles, it was too bizarre for them to kind of to access. But now it's the world they live in. So absolutely.
Hi. So first of all, congratulations. It's an amazing, seems like an amazing movie. I think that it speaks to the universality. I mean, every kid around the world has lost a parent to cancer. So I think that's, thinking about your golden recipe, I think that you've touched upon something that's very universal. I'm very curious about the report that Pantelis has, because earlier this year, Sherry Hope Culver from Temple University released also a report, and I wonder how it intersects with what the European findings are and the North American findings are, although she was pretty universal as well. So I don't know if you could comment on that universality of topics and universality of themes when thinking about films and especially family content.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that we need to tell relevant or not to make private movies, but movies that are personal in a way. I think that when you tell a story, it needs to be something personal in it in order to convey and connect with somebody else that has a similar experience. So with Tool for Fairy Tales, yes, I mean having a family member that is terminally ill, that's something that somebody in Mongolia or in the US or in Poland can connect to. So I'm looking for those kind of stories that connect people and we can talk about it. I think you need to have your eyes and ears wide open. For example, when we screened the first part, people were asking about his father. Where's the father? So we started thinking, oh yeah, they're right. I mean, we haven't said what happened to his father. He's not there. So the second part is about trying to find his father and dealing with that, to have somebody that, maybe just doesn't love you for one reason or another, and to deal with that pain. And again, to tell something serious, something that is universal, but in a way that is also entertaining.
Yeah, regarding the researches, let's say that I'm not in the position exactly to compare at this moment these two. I know the research, but I hadn't really read it properly to compare. But generally, let's say that there are big differences with the past, because the access is way bigger. This is what David said. The access is much bigger. Kids watch things. I'm quoting here, according to the Danish Film Institute, nearly 18% of Danish children between 7 and 14 have watched Squid Game. Okay, so the access is way broader. There is a lot of material that is not meant for kids, but is actually being watched by kids. And I'm not just trying to say that from a, some kind of censorship or police point of view. I'm not interested in that. I'm just saying that kids watch a lot of different things nowadays. It's not always the best thing that they get to see, also because there's a certain structure of the market and the industry. But if you just ask the kids and not the industry, then you're getting, I think, some common things. And one thing is that the universality of some issue topics. Another thing is that you need to be taken seriously. So if you have stories, then you can see yourself in that. You can reflect yourself in that. So you need a little bit of representation, and we need to have representation in a way that makes sense. So it's not superficial. So if we have representation and we have a universality of topics and a little bit of daring and risky decisions that might bring kids into something that they have not already seen, although they have seen a lot of things that are already way beyond what we would consider acceptable, 10 years ago. I think my practical experience is that all research may end up to the same result. Let's open up the field and provide some options after all, because the way the industry works leads to a lack of options. There's so much so much content being produced, and at the same time there's so much content that's actually the same. It's practically nothing new. And we need to see something that resonates with us. If we don't see something that really resonates, then we're just following up on, consuming again and again and again and again, and it doesn't really make sense in the end. And I think this is also the problem of adult audiences too. It's not just for children.
Of course.
Can I have a final question?
Of course.
Okay. This film the screenplay was an adaptation from a novel book, right? And the author of the book was also the screenwriter. Maybe being a novel author and a screenwriter are two completely different crafts. And I would like Pavel's opinion on that. And then I would like Christopher's opinion on how he dealt with this whole thing, because usually authors are very attached to their original work and cannot be detached and write a screenplay. Thank you.
It's a really compelling question, and each case is a different situation, because what constitutes adaptation is a very wide scale. It can be inspired by something to being something that's so popular as a literary work that the filmmakers are very constrained to being very, very exact in their respect to it. I'm not sure about how it was in this case, how well known and established the novel was, or the literary material was beforehand, that there was less space. But that's an important consideration. And yes, it's a different skill to be a filmmaker, to be a screenwriter, than to be a novelist. And there's so many different variations on how that relationship would work. So I'm curious how it happened here.
Well, the book was not very known. I mean, it became more known after the movie than it was before, and I think it's also worth mentioning that the writer Agnieszka, she went through workshops, and there was like a 2-year period of developing the script. So in this case, there were a lot of opinions, a lot of people saying on the way, like, show, don't tell. I mean, don't, this is too literature, and it needs to be more visual. So it was in a good shape when it came to me. And then, of course, with the DP, we worked on it to make it even more visual, not to tell and be in the head all the time, but also to see it. Yeah.
I would like to wrap up here because we have another panel coming soon. Just, quick notes, but you can also add to what I wrote down. We mentioned the book adaptation at the very end, but it actually boosts opportunities for cross-promotion, because even if the book wasn't that successful prior to film release, when it came together with the film release, it added value for the fan core readers, but also for the fans of the film to explore more the story world of the characters. Talking about the characters, relatable characters, both for young actors, but also for the more mature audiences. Treating audience seriously. Again, it doesn't matter if we're talking about the young audiences or the parents or the grandparents audiences that will be in the room. I think what was also crucial in this case was the cinema release that allowed you to, first of all, to connect to the audience. You felt you got these questions about the father and what's next, but also it allowed the audience to be together, and there is a very strong fan base. And then when, with streamers like Netflix, this kind of local stories, when they have the universal topics, they can really reach out very far. And once again, it proves that a local story can become a universal if it's just a good story.
That's a nice summary.
Thank you. We will do. That will be amazing. Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Speaking. Perfect.
Sounds great.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. But it needs to happen.
It shouldn't be too complicated, I think.
We're still waiting for George, right?
George and Yanis.
Yes, and Yanis, exactly.
And some of the students that were out, that went out for a coffee or something.
It's actually raining.
It's what?
It rains.
It rained?
Yeah.
Oh.
Now it rains, like really. So we are, well, I mean, safe here. Welcome.
Where's Alessia?
Wherever you want.
You can move if you want this.
I shouldn't be doing this with my shoulders because I have a tendonitis issue. And they told me after 15 years of trying to find what causes my problem after 3 surgeries and stuff like that, is that I'm sitting like that. Too much actually heals the tendon because it's not like that as it should.
Oh wow!
So I'm
that was
trying not
that
to sit
sim.
like-
So that was that simple as a solution.
Yeah.
What about sleeping? You can't really control what you do with your...
Either with my hand like right against my body or above my shoulder, above my head. That's the only
We're still missing Yanis, right? Yanis.
Yes, we're just waiting for
Apparently,
Yanis.
when you are sleeping on your back, it like aligns the.
Can I have a
We
program?
need more air because I think it's no. Did you put the air on?
Are you feeling hot?
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna check what's going on.
15 years after trying to figure out what's wrong.
Just to something technical. Just remind you that you need to use this. Yeah. Okay.
Hi.
Welcome.
Perfect.
Most excellent.
So, Carol, it's over to you.
Yes, so welcome back for our second panel, Panel B, the film education at the university level. I am Carol Colmenares. I come from New York, but I am originally from Colombia, South America. I went to school in New York at Hunter College, where I met my friend Lena, and we studied film. And then after that, I did a master's in educational communication and technology at New York University. And before we start, speaking about the wonderful professors that we have here, we would like to know from the students that are here, and what are you studying, and why did you pick this path of filmmaking?
Maybe we would need. Who want to start? Because we are really curious.
We are. We want to learn from you as much as you can learn from us.
Hello. I'm Anna. I study digital arts and filmmaking at the University of Athens. You have my teachers there.
Why did you why choose digital arts?
Well, my adventure there is not very common. I started from nursing. I have a minor degree in nursing. And I thought that I really want to show the honesty of the world, because we have some tough times, especially in Greece. And I really like the art of showing the honesty. So I decided to go to our university so I can not only study filmmaking, but I can see the different aspects of it. So we don't only do filmmaking, we do programming and other types of art, and the history of it, and the history of art, and the history of filmmaking. You see a broader view of it as an art medium, not as a production company.
Okay. Thank you, Anna.
Hello, I also study at the Digital Arts and Cinema department. So I started filmmaking as a hobby, because at school when I was like 15, all the teachers were like, write an essay, and I was like, that's not cool, let's make a movie. And I started making films, and then I really didn't know what to do, so I said what to study. So when I was 18, so I'm like, okay, that's my hobby, let's go with that. So that's why I started this. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
So my name is Plato. We are all in the same university, of course. And I started looking for computer science, but then I don't know, a spark inside me or something. I wanted to do something more artistic, more. I want to study something more, maybe. How do I say this? Yeah. And this is what I finally chose to study filmmaking, and maybe go more into video games animation, which brings everything together.
Great. We have a
all.
panel on Friday on video games and animation,
yeah.
so can't miss it. Can you pass it to the...
Hi, my name is Maria. I also am in the same university. I got into filmmaking, I would say, mostly because I also play video games all of the time. I love video games. I don't really like programming, though. It all started when I was like in primary school. My dad, for some reason, was like, you want to look into like editing, music, videos, photos, anything like that. And I was like, okay, so I love that. I love using my PC. I had my computer at the time. And then I realized I used to watch like YouTube all of the time. And then for some reason, like a girl popped up from my recommendations on YouTube. And she just had like her camera and like filmed the movie all by herself. She was talking about her life, all her issues and everything, but it was like so real, the atmosphere, the places she was recording, everything like that. And I was like, I love that. I loved how real she was. I was so like, I wouldn't say invested, but like I was like, I want that. I want something that's real because, yeah, there's marketing and everything. We have a thing of like, I don't know, companies, of course, they want to make money. Yeah, I get that. But I miss that real thing that movies can have. Something touching, like the movie we watched earlier. It was like I cried. It was really nice. I like that. I like the face expression. I want that. I like the colors. They were like realistic. I don't want like neon stuff. I want something that's
real. Thank you, Maria.
Hello, my name is Rav. And well, the reason I'm in the same university as the rest of the kids, and well, the reason I joined this university is because I just really like film. I started off with photography as a hobby at first, but I realized after watching even more movies and I grew up that I too wanted to direct something like that or something that would make me feel the same way I did when I watched more films. So basically, I see it as a way to really express what I feel or what I've been through or more stories of other people, not only myself. So that's it.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. But it's well, we really wanted to hear it, just also to to understand and maybe also go back to our own memories, how we ended up in film. And can you now share your stories? What was your choice to?
Yes, introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about how you got into filmmaking so that you could either serve as inspiration or not. I don't know. We can start.
Shall I start?
Yes.
Shall I start?
Yes, you have the mic.
All right, okay. My name is George Varosis. I have produced and directed short films, corporate idents, and corporates and music and commercials. But I'm also a screenwriter. I'm represented as a writer-director by Jake Friedman in Los Angeles. And I also teach cinema, producing for cinema and TV at the Department of Digital Arts of Digital Arts and Cinema at the University of Athens in Chalkida, where I teach cinema producing and film production. My story actually starts with me remembering myself liking movies as far as I can go back. I was also an avid video gamer, and I was experimenting with programming very early, like about 13, and I have always been fascinated by storytelling in general. However, I found out at a very early stage that I'm not good at programming, or I wasn't interested as much in programming, and eventually filmmaking was the substitute that came after my desire to make video games, because I was playing and still play a lot of video games. So kind of it was a logical transition from video games to another form that tells stories, which is the cinema, which remains one of my passions to this day. So yeah, in short, that was my way. 30 years later, 35 years later, finding myself teaching about cinema and all. So yeah, in essence, we may have the opportunity later on to touch on individual aspects, but I'll pass on to Pavel.
Pavel.
Hello. Hello again for those that are here again. I'm Pavel Yech, and I've always been fascinated by cinema. It's always been part of our lives, and I think definitely my family encouraged that because we would go to the movies or we would watch it. It wasn't a situation where you wouldn't. And I think I saw a lot of more mature films because my parents were interested in them as a child than I should have. But I think the way I launched into it, because I was studying history first, which now I realize is probably why I work as a professor, and also because history is really about storytelling in one aspect of it. Was because of I could work as a translator on some. After 1990, there was a lot of foreign production coming into Prague, and they have crews from mainly from the U.S. but other parts of the world, and then the rest of the crew, the services were from the very strong Czechoslovak and Czech film industry. So they needed a lot of translators, and I was a translator on the set on several of these productions, and that really gave me a fascinating aspect. And my first time hired as a screenwriter was because I didn't know better. I didn't really like the script of the film that the crew was working on. I saw the producer at lunch, and I said this because I was a student, not knowing any better. I don't think the script's so good. He said, well, can you do something better? And so I did. So I made something up. I made up a sequel to the movie. I typed it like that night and put it under his door the next day. And he actually talked to me, and he said, like, okay, we don't have the rights to the sequel, but if you want a job, I will. You can write something else for me. So that was how I kind of got into the creative part of it. Eventually, I did graduate from 2 film schools, from FAMU in Prague, where I eventually also became the dean. I also studied in New York for a while, and yes, and now I'm back to being an academic. I'm a professor at Chapman University in California.
Thank you, Pavel.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rafael Parra. I'm also from Colombia. So how did I get into film? Back in Colombia, out of high school, I went to philosophy school. So I went to study philosophy. And there was my initial contact with filmmaking was just by watching film, as everybody else here. So I got the good fortune that I was, at that time I was watching films on a real movie theater in the large screen, because there was no such thing as all the technologies that we have today, that we can watch a film today in our phone. During my time in philosophy school, my only way to really, there was no film school back in Colombia. There was no faculty of film. There was no place where you can formally study film. So you needed to be self-taught. So the only way that I could learn about the history of cinema was going into this, not into the commercial theaters, because most of the films that you could watch in Colombia were American films. But if you wanted to watch all the classics, the history of cinema, the 20th century, the 100 years of history of cinema, you needed to go to these art houses, or we call it cine clubs. So that was my formation in terms of learning about filmmaking. So once I was out of philosophy school, when I got my degree, so what a philosopher would do to make a living, not just sit and think. So I have to look for a job. And I got a job writing in a magazine. It was a weekly magazine. I was in charge of the arts and culture section of the magazine. And one of my duties was to write a movie review every week. So I started writing about films for maybe 3 years. And then I make a decision. I've been writing about films. I need to learn the practical way how to make a film. So I decided to move to New York. I went to New York and enrolled in film school. I went to Hunter College, that is part of the City University of New York. It's a public school. So during my years in New York learning film, I learned all the practical things. So I learned how to operate the camera, how to work with an editing system, how to do lighting, how to record sound, etc. So all the practical skills that you need to make a film. And after touching in all those areas, the area that really attracted me was post-production, was editing. So out of film school, I started working as an editor. I still work professionally as an editor. So most of my career has been editing for Sesame Street. So I've been awarded 2 Emmys for my work at Sesame Street as Best Editor, 2010 and 2012. So that's my professional career. But then I decided, right, since I also have all this knowledge, I also want to share this knowledge with students. So I started also my academic career 25 years ago, teaching at the New School University in a film program. And that's what I do today. So I divide my time between my academic career, teaching filmmaking, and also my professional career as an editor. So that's a summary of how I got into film.
Thank you, Rafa.
My story is more strange than these stories. Actually, I started studying law in the University of Athens. So I finished, I graduated from the law school, but back in the 1980s, what was at fashion was to become a journalist here, because there were so many mass media, new mass media, journals, magazines, stations, radio stations, television stations, and everything. So I decided to study then journalism. So I went to the biggest Athenian radio station of the period. But in the middle of my education, half of the journalists of the station were resigned or fired because of an internal conflict. So we left with only the rest of our professors that study, with whom we study journalism. That is, we left with the people of camera and of audiovisual arts. And then I discovered how that this was a very interesting thing. Photography and production and editing was a very interesting thing, much more interesting than journalism. So at the end, I became a journalist for 7 years, but at the same time, I decided to study in a private school, a 3-year school, a faculty, let's say, of a school named Stavrakos, most famous private school of Greece. And I studied cinema, and then I gained a scholarship, and I went to England at University of Goldsmiths University of London, and then Westminster University. And I did an MA and a PhD there. And when I came back, it was the time that the new film departments in Greece opened. That is around 2000, 2002, 2004. I didn't go to the Department of Thessaloniki, which is right now the most famous and the oldest one. It's a film school, a proper film school there. I went to the Department of Cultural Technology and Communication, which is at Lesbos Island, northeastern part of Greece. And I stayed there for 22 years. And I teach there editing, camera, cinematography, the film direction, film history as well, all kind of stuff. And then I was elected here at the University of Athens, and now I'm the president of the Digital Arts and Cinema Department. And at the same time, I teach at the Hellenic Open University. I teach screenwriting there. And whereas in the Digital Arts and Cinema Department, I teach camera work, basically, film direction, screenwriting, and yeah, sometimes more practical things and works. At the end, I studied also psychology.
Psychology.
Psychology, yes. I'm telling you this because right this year, I had my first course, I taught the first course that's called Cinematography for Directors. where I found some very interesting things that happen in my audience, that is my students. Probably I might have the chance to tell you about this.
Okay, thank you.
That's
Right.
my story.
Maybe I have another entry, like strange entry to the film world, because I studied sociology and African studies because I really wanted to work for some big NGOs. But when I did work for them, I realized it's very disappointing actually, and not really where I would like to contribute my life to. And then because I always had an interest in arts, I thought, okay, maybe an NGO that works with arts would be a suitable place for me. And at that time, Andrzej Wajda Film School, that was a film school created by Andrzej Wajda in Warsaw, was looking for someone that would take over the marketing department, which was, it was 25 years ago, or 20 years ago. And marketing was it's something that no one was actually know how to do, and also no one wanted to touch it. And I was a fresh woman, so I will take it. And that's how I started. I did a PR for the school, but also for all the films that were produced at school. I also did a PR for campaigns and distribution campaigns, festival campaigns. And for me, that was my film school when working with all the students, but all together with the masters, because the whole structure, educational structure, the system was based on collective filmmaking that is deeply rooted in Polish history cinema of the 70s, where the whole collectives were gathering, working on one-person film, which I find beautiful, very beautiful as an idea, and also right now coming back as a trend, because we observe more and more collectives. And right now I'm also a teacher there, and I'm also teaching in other film schools, and I'm teaching marketing. And I find it as a very important part of the whole filmmaking process, which is not about only selling the product. It's very much about understanding what do you have, what do you want to achieve, and ultimately reaching out to the audiences you want to reach out to. It's a very creative part, and that's actually my mission that I'm trying to achieve with workshops and trainings that I'm running. So there are different ways of being included in the film world, different creative worlds.
Thank you, Joanna. I see a common thread between all of you and the students about the need for expression. I mean, all of you had said the need for expression, the need for authenticity, the need for finding the truth. And I wonder, despite the difference in age and despite all of that, have you seen the changes of the type of students that are coming into the university now as to when you went to school? And you've had several years
also
at the university.
Different types, but also different maybe types of needs or expectations that they have right now.
So I started teaching at the New School University in New York in 1997. So I started teaching at that transitional moment between what we call digital filmmaking and analog filmmaking. So I've seen the evolution in terms of the needs of the students that I have, let's say, in 1997 or 1998, or students right now in 2025. By the way, this year I'm on sabbatical, so I'm not teaching this year. But I've seen the evolution in terms of the needs, because let's say on the practical part of filmmaking, so if you're teaching lighting, cinematography, sound, etc., technology changes so fast. Like if we look at the cameras that we used in the 1990s and we look at the cameras that we use today, and the way the changes happens almost every year. What doesn't change that fast, but is also changed, is in the aspects of the theoretical parts of filmmaking, so the theory of cinema. So you always, what I see on the students today, yes, that is when they arrive into a film program, they come better equipped in terms of the technology, because they have all this easy access to a camera. Like everybody today has a camera on their phone. So you see students coming with some practical knowledge in terms of how to visually express themselves. What I don't see on the students today is that sense of history, the history of cinema and how cinema has been evolving and has been changing. And that's one of the things that I think is very important for students today when they enroll in a film program, that balance between the practical aspect of filmmaking and the theoretical aspects of filmmaking. And also, as Joanna said, today, the marketing part. So the program, the film program at the new school, the School of Media Studies, we have those three areas well defined. So we have classes on the practical side of filmmaking, we have classes on the theoretical part of filmmaking, and we have classes on what we call media management, so classes about the business of filmmaking. So today I see students that comes into film school very interested, let's say, in the business side of filmmaking, in distribution, in all those things. But I also see students that with a lot of practical knowledge, they want to increase their, say, the theoretical knowledge of cinema. So that's the trend that I see today. Another trend that I see today is that traditionally, if you see, look at the history of cinema, it was a male-dominated industry. So on all the key positions like camera operators, editors, writers, etc., was being a male-dominated industry. Now I see more and more females students enroll at school. So, say in an editing class today, for me, I'm surprised because when I started in 1997, the majority of students were male. Today, the majority of my students are female. So in a 20-seat class, I will say I have 14 students that are female and just 6 students that are male. So for me, that's a big change. So that's one of the changes that I see today.
Yeah, I mean, I see things kind of very similarly. Some things change a lot, and some things stay very much the same. So definitely with representation, it's majority female students now. At least what I see both in the U.S. and in Prague, and that's great. And not just like in editing, in cinematography. And I say cinematography because I remember that at the cinematography department in Prague, which is a very good one, you know, it's comparable to the one they have in Poland as well. They're both just as proud. But it was kind of a very, you know, they said this in a very clinical way, but I think it was horribly sexist, that there's that the postal department has a weight limit that a woman employee can carry, and that it also applies to the camera department because cameras have a certain weight, and so the female body can't hold it. And they would say this with all seriousness. Technology has changed, so the cameras don't weigh the same. So that argument is gone, even if it was valid, which I didn't agree with then, and I don't agree with it now. But it had to be a really kind of strong personality to be a female cinematographer 20 years ago. Cinematographers are still very interesting personalities, but it's the sexism I think that's faded away. It's like so that's something that I think has changed. The access technology, because before, one of the reasons why someone would go to a film school, at least in a place like Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic, was to even see the technology. They didn't even see it before they came to the school. So there was like the editing department there where else can you get your hands on a 16 millimeter or 35 millimeter editing equipment? You just don't see that. In Prague, we still have the Department of Editing, a 5-year, 3 + 2 year, 5-year program. But every student there already knows they wouldn't be accepted in the department if they didn't know how to edit. They know the technology. It's kind of second nature to them. So why are they going for 5 years to study when originally, when the department was created, it was so you could see for the first time film stock and other technology. So, but the students there are just as interesting and fascinating and driven as they were before. So it's not about the technology. One technological moment that I had was because I'm talking about the exclusivity of technology, which was one of the reasons why film schools existed, so to have access to it. The school in Prague has a beautiful center in the woods. It's isolated. It takes 2-3 hours to get there. There's many historical reasons why this place exists for the school, but one of the beautiful things it has is a 35 millimeter projection room, and they have to go to the nearest place 30 kilometers away to get a licensed projectionist to screen films. And I was there once as a young teacher with the students, and we went to the archive and we got a great print of The Silence by Bergman, and we're going to screen it in the middle of the woods in this very privileged place. And even then, usually students would come to that. But there was some missing, and it was my job to go find them. And so I went to the cabin, and one of them had a laptop and a pack of DVDs, and they're watching with the classmates some Kubrick movie on the laptop in the woods on the DVD. Now students are asking, "What's a DVD?" I know, but that's when I realized everything is changing. Like the access is changing, but I think the personalities, to me, that hasn't changed. Because I remember when I first started, was fortunate to be accepted into the film school in Prague, and I was like, these are like the most interesting people of my generation. It seemed like wow, these are really fascinating classmates I have, and I still see that when now I'm a professor and I'm in California, and we have at our school we have people coming from all over the world, and it's like, oh yeah, that's an interesting person. There's something very interesting about that young person that chose to come here, and I don't really understand why people still want to study film, because it's like the technology is changing and there's so many other things to do, but we still get like kind of the most interesting people and like and very intelligent people, because you see the statistics where they could go study, and there's still much bigger demand, and there's still like important families that are trying to find ways for their child to go study, be there as well. So even though everything's kind of like available, and even though there's so many other possibilities, it's still something that attracts us, and I'm still trying to figure out what that is. But I think what we have to do is create an environment that their creativity and their visions has as much space to grow, and we have to create an environment, and this is the reason why I think we have film schools still, for communities to grow, because this is a place where people meet each other. They meet that person. So like right now, I'm in California. It's that person from Oregon, from a small town, and another person from grew up in Hollywood, and they were both like film fans. And now they find each other and they just become friends for life, and they're going to work together for life. So that's what I think is still the most important, even though some things just change so quickly.
Yeah, I have similar experience to share about the democratization of access and technical skills and all that. What I have seen is that we do get a lot of students who are technically skilled in editing and shooting films and using all the technology that is available to them, but what we need to strive as academics or teachers is that we have to teach them the fundamentals. And I'm only saying it because my subjects have not been radicalized by technology yet, which is screenwriting predominantly and producing in a secondary role. And as much as we are dreading ChatGPT and AI and all that stuff, which are tools that we can use to our advantage, we have to teach the students the fundamentals about narrative. What is narrative? What does it make a narrative compelling? What is conflict? What is dramatic conflict? And how that relates to universally to themes around the world, whether we are shooting in Greece or in the US or in other countries. And these fundamentals of dramatic conflict, or dramaturgy, if we want to call it in Greece, hasn't changed for the last 2,000 years. We've been developing stories in written form since Homer started writing Odyssey and Iliad. And we need to kind of actually double down on this kind of fundamentals, because cinema is about stories, right? Story is the king, as we say in cinema. And if we want to get ahead, we need to focus on actually informing our students what makes a good story. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that apart from teaching the fundamentals, we also have to prepare them for a very tough and very difficult industry, which is the film industry, notoriously tough to break into. And apart from teaching our students the fundamentals, is that we have to teach them the right mentality to cope with the hurdles that they are going to have in front in the careers to get where they want to get. So these are things that we need to touch. In terms of gender representation, I went to film school back in 2002, and that has had already started to change. I had many female colleagues back then, and working in the industry for many years, I realized that women make excellent producers, excellent production managers, excellent solving conflicts and stuff like that, working in the office, much better producers than men are. At least for my experience. And I only saw lack of representation when it got to heavy duty stuff like working at dolly grip on set or carrying lights. Or not that I haven't seen women working as gaffers or camera women or aspects like that. But it makes sense for a woman or for a female not being able to drag a 150 kilos dolly to get the shot. It makes sense. It's like, as Pavel said, like lack of muscle, structural muscle limitations, right? But as I said, I've seen editors women, cinematographers women, camera assistants as women, working as women, producers and production managers, and first ADs.
Directors.
But I haven't seen directors. I was getting to that, and that is something that we need to. It goes deeper. This lack of representation when it comes to directing films is a deeper issue, which I don't think we have the time to touch upon on this panel. But yeah, Yanis, can I pass the microphone to you? I think I can. Don't want to create monologues.
No, it's all right. Actually, right now in Greece, in the Greek Cinematographers Society, there are only 3 or 4 women out of 44 members.
Wow.
Right now. It's 1 out of 10. And also in my 4th year class, right now, I don't believe that there are more than 2 women that have said that they will follow the discipline of cinematography or camera or something like that. Something similar, I mean. I don't know it's a technophobia issue or not, but it seems that I disagree. That I believe that there are a lot of and very good as well film directors, women film directors in the generation that comes. I don't know if they will manage to survive in this very difficult situation, but there are some very good film directors, women. But in terms of camera work, in terms of cinematography, I don't see that there are a lot that they would like to become cinematographers. It is quite a problem, but I think they can select. I mean, it's their choice. I have take some notes here. I started teaching in 2002. And I have taught screenwriting and film direction for 21 years at the University of the Aegean and 15 years at the Technical Institute of Athens, currently University of Western Attica. So I wrote some notes, what happened over this period of time and what's going on now. And students, I noticed that students of this first decade of the 21st century, as you said, they lived and survived from this digital revolution that happened from analog to digital, and this was a great change, of course. But also, we have to remember that this was a period with no video streaming at all. There were no YouTube, there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, no TikTok, no nothing, nothing of this. And I remember that students used to deliver movies in CDs, not DVDs, CDs. They were so small, the capacity, and it was all right being having a movie in a CD. And of course, this has another side. The side is that that cinema and filmmaking was still a kind of magic situation. And in my opinion, the access to editing tools was very narrow at this period of time. And when we offer them as a department, when we offer them access to these editing tools, they feel that this was kind of a great situation. They have to take profit of it.
Yeah, can I interrupt here, because yes. I think it's it's what is really interesting for especially our young audiences is where are the changes that we saw. What is can we focus more on the present time, because the past we share the same memories.
Yeah, but I would like to show this contradiction, because right now students have CapCut in their phones and they can do some editing. They don't. I feel that they don't feel that this is something really magic to make a movie. And also this kind of, if you like, of disrespect comparing with the students of the 20 years ago about what is filmmaking. And I don't mean that they are offensive or they do some offensive actions or something like that, but I feel that they don't think that filmmaking is right, something that they have to learn, they have to be taught, and we have to
can just do
give them. Yes, it's more like these are tools. It's like a way of expressing themselves, at the same time. It's something like speaking and making films is more or less the same for, at least for the graduates. And this has changed. I feel that this feeling has changed. And also, I have some other notes. I believe that 20 years ago or 30 years ago, cinema and games, the game industry was quite a different thing. Right now, I believe that in the minds of the current students, it's not really, it is not really a separate thing. Also, 20 or 30 years ago, there was not much access to European films for the students. Right now, they have access to European films, at least the Greek ones. They see a lot of, they watch a lot of French films and other from other industries as well. And cameras at this period of time, 30 years ago, there was still a kind of magic tool. Not many people have cameras. There was no DSLR at this period of time, only DSLR, and they were very expensive to have cameras. So when we give them cameras, they think they consider it as a present, and they treat it as a present. Right now, everybody has a camera, a very good camera. Everybody has iPhones, and they can shoot whatever. They just take a tripod and they do a very good film. So right now, filmmaking is not a so serious activity. At least they consider it's not a so serious activity. Maria Leonida said it yesterday, and this was true. And they consider that it's a very easy thing to do. So they do it in a very provisional way, we might say. Let's have an exercise. Let's do this. Let's do this. But they don't they don't prepare it as well as they should do. And also,
but at the same time, I'm just sorry, I need to be polemic here because I think about people that actually make it and then they made it and then they put it on YouTube. And I know that, I mean, you can discuss what film is, but then they put it on YouTube and then it becomes a success. And then how, you know, how do they understand that these type of films are also have some audiences or if it's resonating? And we were before talking about what is the golden recipe. Obviously it doesn't exist, but if it's something resonating, I mean, in terms of storytelling, I think because there is another thing of having access to equipment, but also it's easy to be, you know, to be to do self-distribution. And if you have a success with that, how can you understand that then maybe this is not enough, but maybe it is for these artists? You know, I think that's the definitions has changed also. What?
No, I'm considering I'm thinking of the behavior of the students of the 2002 and the students of 2022, and I see that this behavior is pretty different in terms of camera treatment, in terms of how they feel about filmmaking. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying these students are bad or the other students are bad. I'm just saying that this is pretty different. I believe what happened in the middle, the social changes that happen in the middle, the technological changes that happen in the middle, they provoked this result. That's what I'm saying.
Perhaps a question that we could refocus is on what are the students' needs today as opposed to the needs that they had previously. So nowadays, instead of learning how to use the equipment or instead of learning how to cut negative, they need different tools and they need different structures. They need different digital narratives. And that's, I think, a more interesting question. And perhaps from you guys, what is it that you feel that you need? What is it lacking? Do you agree or not agree with what is being said here? Yes.
Carol, could I add something that relates to what John said before we move on? Because I think it's relatable. I think back in 2002, we had to shoot on Super 16. And what that entails, we have to separate storytelling from film production as processes. Because when you go into university and you want to learn about film production, you have to learn why Super 16 needs bigger lights. And if it needs bigger lights, it needs bigger stands. And if it needs bigger this and bigger that, you need bigger equipment. And what I'm trying to get at is that if you're shooting on film, you have to find film stock, which is very expensive. You have to telecine it, which is also very expensive. You have to plan very carefully. You have to plan your shots, you have to plan your pre-production, you have to plan your production. And all these processes go away with the digital equipment because you can actually do, okay, let's do another take, right? And but if you have to prepare a shot on Super 16, even worse than 35 millimeters, doing that extra take probably will cost you a couple of thousand euros, which is short film nowadays, right? Mm-hmm. So this kind of process, it hasn't changed in the professional world. And when we're talking about reaching YouTube and something becomes successful in YouTube or TikTok, it has nothing to do with the professional film production process, which we are trying to maintain. Because when you get to the professional world, it's not about YouTube or TikTok, it's about making TV dramas or TV series or cinemas or whatever actually brings in money to the traditional corporations who are still out there, studios and streamers and stuff like that. Now, YouTube is something that revolutionizes this this access from all angles, and actually dissolves these fundamentals which I earlier on I mentioned. So yeah, I have seen the same thing. This simplification of the film production process in terms of technology, it dissolves the access we have to be teaching, what we have to be teaching our students about the fundamentals of making films in general.
Mm-hmm.
microphone, or we need one maybe from the room? Thank you. You have a comment, right? You have a comment. Yeah. So the question is, what is that you feel you need?
So after making some films with my colleagues and my friends, I've seen that there's a problem in how people make films in general. Maybe there's a problem in their mindset, and here comes the female director problem. So I do believe that as filmmakers, we don't learn how to take risks. Okay, so I've seen that many times we're like shooting a film, and then something goes wrong, and maybe a little thing, and maybe some colleagues are like, "Oh my God, we're gonna die. What are we gonna do now? Oh my God, maybe we'll do it some other time." I'm like, okay, wait. See what we got, what we can do. And that's what businessmen learn, that's what doctors learn, but we don't learn this. And I do believe that's something very important to learn. And that's why I think that there are not many film-made directors, because women in general do not learn how to take risks. Do not learn how to take risks from the parents, from the society. Men are more used to take risks. And that's what makes a good director, in my opinion. It's like you're a surgeon for a movie. A surgeon takes the risk. If the lights go out, he won't say, "Oh my God, let's let the patient to die." Yeah? He's going to change the lamp. That's what we must learn, because we are surgeons of films.
Anna, you seem to have a comment.
I will probably disagree with that. Sorry. I think we don't give them opportunities to show that they can handle it. We, especially since most of the production companies are run by specific people, we know the sexist part of it. But like you see, people have other expectations of female directors. You see a movie by a man that is like in art, in film school, you are like, okay, he is a student. But when you see it from a woman, you are like, maybe it is because she's a woman. Maybe it's, what to do, and maybe it's her status, maybe you put a lot of narrative into it. But like when you see it from a man, you're like, okay, he will get there. I don't know if I made any sense.
I think part of what the discussion is that there aren't enough conditions available for women to become successful film directors.
Or editors, or cinematographers. And we see this kind of, it's from a women's perspective. No, it's from a person's perspective. And we are also, and this is a very personal view, we're not allowed to make a lot of mistakes. You have to, as women, you have to get it on the first try. While I think that for male directors or male cinematographers, you're allowed to make a decision and fail. And try again, and fail, and try again. While I think that the pressure on women is always, she's a great film director, she got it on the first try. So I think those conditions need to change, and perhaps they need to start changing at a university level, and they need to start changing perhaps in some of the classes you teach, or maybe they are already changing in some of the classes that you're teaching. But what we've heard, it was also surprising that both Rafael and Pavo, you said that you actually see more balance in terms of gender, but it's not reflected necessarily still in Europe. So we have different experiences. Maybe also, there are different type of thinking. I don't know, but I think that's a significant difference.
There is a fundamental thing that we sometimes forget about, is that filmmaking is a collaborative. It's not a male-female thing. It's a collaboration between many individuals. You cannot make a film alone. Yes. So a university environment or a film faculty, what provides for students,
Rafa.
male.
Yeah, maybe No, just hold the microphone closer to your mouth.
Hello. Oh, yes. So what the film program provides to students, in my case, in my classes, is that collaboration between individuals. It really doesn't matter if the person is female or male. In order to make a successful film, you need to learn how to work as a team. You need to learn how to collaborate, because a good film is the result of many minds, not just a single mind, working together. This idealization of the role of the director, like without the director, there is no. The director is just one more mind in the process of making a film. So that's why on the last panel, we're talking about a film. When you make a film 3 times and even 4 times. First, you make the film when you write the script. Then you make the film when you go into the set and start shooting the film. Then you make the film again, the same film, when you go into post-production. As Joanna also said, then when you go into distribution, you are also working in making that film. So that film, when it goes into the theaters, is not the result of just one mind. It's not the result of just the director. No, it's a collaboration between individuals. It really doesn't matter if the individual is a male or a female. That's irrelevant. Of course, traditionally, this has been a male-dominated industry, where most of the roles are assigned to males. But today, that has been changing. I was reading an article, I think a couple of days ago, that right now, the director of the most important camera operator organization in the United States, for the first time, is a female. Yes? So it's not a male or female thing. We need to go back to this idea. This is one of those arts that you need to collaborate with other people. If you're in a sculpture, you're just working alone in your studio. If you're a painter, just working alone just in your studio. If you're a musician, you're just working alone. But if you're a filmmaker, you need to work with other people, and you need to learn how to collaborate. You need to learn how every person contributes to the success of that film. And that's what I try to encourage to my students in my class. So always working group, always working group.
That also goes back to the collective filmmaking that I was talking about before, that this is idea from the 70s. And right now I think a lot of, because we see these collectives popping up. I mean, Italy, Greece, I'm pretty sure you have that as well. That's especially working very well for documentary films, by the way. But I think young people, younger generation, like your generation, finds it even more organic to have these collectives to work. But what was also pointed out by you, Carol, I think the conditions, create conditions for diversity to happen, because we don't want only male stories. I think we all agree here. We want different stories to be told, and so these conditions that's a crucial momentum, at the time of the education, to empower, to make space, empower the women, but also non-binary, different type of stories to be born.
To uplift, yeah. I kind of want to redirect the panel to the newest trend in AI and how that is influencing the screenwriting classes or the digital art programs or the editing or cinematography, and what has been your experience with students using AI or not using AI, and are you teaching it? Are you not teaching it?
So this is something that's happening so quickly. And by the way, one of the criticisms of AI is that it's embedded with a lot of sexism and other exclusionary mindsets. So it's not only a problem that's happening in the industry, it's there in AI. But I don't know if we can. I don't think this panel can solve those problems. But about AI, it's happening very quickly. So I'm also on sabbatical this semester, so I'm away from my school in California for but I'm following some meetings online, or and it's happening so quickly. Like what the discussions on how to put it into different parts of the curriculum, and there's a saying about the about the film industry that was written by William Goldman, a screenwriter who wrote a very fun book about his life as a screenwriter. He said, nobody knows anything. Like that's about the film industry. Like in the end, nobody really knows anything. And I think we're in that situation with AI, how to work with it. But all I know is like anecdotal things. We are working to get in the curriculum. There are agencies in California that represent talent, that are specifically interested in finding new students that know how to work with AI, because they know that they're not even going to count on the older people, filmmakers learning how to use AI. They want people that know how to use it immediately. So there's a buzz around it. There's a sense about it. But a year ago, I was co-teaching a class with someone who was a development executive with a lot of credits. He had, for instance, apparently he's the one who discovered Forrest Gump and made sure that became a film. So he knows story, and he's been working on it for a long time. And it was a special class for graduate students that we were co-teaching. And he was really trying to encourage them he was very personally curious about AI, them to use AI tools to develop their ideas or to workshop their ideas. And the students, for the most part, were absolutely resistant to it. So it was this older professor who's been around for a long time who was like, let's try this out, who obviously knows all the traditional parts of development because he worked for all the studios. But the students were like, no, we're not touching that. So that's just what I noticed a year ago. I do know that for disciplines where no one wants to, like you were saying, I didn't want to write the essays, I wanted to make films. So maybe a student with that same attitude would say, I have to write the essay, I don't want to write it, so ChatGPT, help me out here. But I don't know if when it's about expressing what you want to express and, showing to the world your thoughts and your impressions of how this world works, that I'm not seeing so much that students want to use AI to help them with that. To get rid of the essay, yes, but to make the film, no. But it's a complex question because sound designers have already been using AI for a while, and they haven't even been aware of it, or they weren't labeling it. So it's such an open question, and all I know is that we're racing through it very quickly, and we're still trying to figure it out.
It's hitting us like a speed train.
Yeah. Yes, my experience is very similar, and again, the only thing that I can say right now, AI is just another tool for the students, and of course, for instance, I can give you an example. I teach, one class that I teach is a hands-on production class about editing, where students need to use a nonlinear system. So most of my students use either Avid or DaVinci Resolve or Adobe Premiere. Yes? And the other class that is also an editing class is called the Aesthetics of Editing, where students don't need to touch a machine at all. They need to think and they need to analyze, and it's more like a history of the evolution of editing, of post-production, since the silent period to the present. So of course, they need to write. Some of them use ChatGPT, but when I ask them, all right, stand in front of the room and explain your idea on your essay, immediately you can tell that there is a disconnect between what is on paper and what the student is expressing. So what I tell them is, it's not wrong that you use, there is nothing wrong with using ChatGPT to organize your idea, but make sure that who is doing the thinking is you, not the machine. Because when you delegate the thinking process into the machine, you are kidding yourself. You are not an artist anymore. The same happened on my production class. Students come into my editing class with experience working with Adobe Premiere. they learn Adobe Premiere by themselves, so they think they are already editors. So why, Rafael, do I need to take this class if I am already being editing in Adobe Premiere? My answer is, because I'm not teaching you the software. I'm not teaching you Adobe Premiere. I'm not teaching you Avid. I'm not teaching you DaVinci Resolve. What I'm teaching you is how to edit, how to think about organizing your shots and putting them together. And now I tell them, since you already know how to edit, and since you already know how to use Adobe Premiere, so let's do this exercise. Load the footage. I'm going to give you this footage, and you're going to start editing this, this story. But do me a favor, close the timeline. You don't have a time. Immediately they say, but how can I edit if I don't have a timeline? I need to use a timeline to edit my film. Then I ask them the following question. When you go into a movie theater, to understand the story, to understand the structure of that movie, do you have a timeline at the bottom of the screen that explains what is going on the screen? No, your eyes need to be fixed on the screen, not on the timeline. So when you edit, looking at the timeline and switching shots as if you're working with a puzzle, you are missing the fundamental point of editing, that is to tell a story in a visual way. So the timeline doesn't tell you anything. What tells you all about the story when you are editing is while you're looking at the screen. So gradually, they start to understand the limitations of the technology. So it's not because you have access to a timeline that you can be a better editor. It's when you start using your mind and making your own decisions about what shots to use, what shots to put together, what shots come first, what shot come second, is when you are being creative. So the technology is just a tool. Like AI is going to be just a tool, yes, that you can use it, yes. But at the end of the day, is your mental process that is going to make the difference in terms of creating a good story, creating a good film or not.
Okay.
Can I say a word?
Yes, of course.
I believe that as long as the AI remains a tool, I totally agree with you. And I mean, we have personal computers since the 70s, and we still learn maths, and we still teach the students maths. And it is because to make the personal computers better, to make all this science better, computer science better. So we have to continue learning them how to edit, how to use technology, how to shoot, how everything. But I'm not sure if AI remain a tool or become dominant. I'm not sure about this. And I believe that there is no definite answer right now about this. Because if AI becomes dominant, then this will eliminate our studies, actually. Because if somebody can create a clip by writing some words, then we don't need editors, we don't need cameramen, we don't need directors. That's the idea. But we cannot answer it. Right now we are at a school, at a film school. We have to teach our students how to do how to make films in a better way they can.
This is a great segue to our next topic, which is, are the film schools still relevant today? You know?
Sure. I'll start. I mean, I kind of mentioned this at the beginning. I think so because, I mean, I question always, why do we have a school? And why do all these people want to come? Again, at Chapman, it's like 5% get accepted. At FAMU, it was very similar, even lower. People want to come, and they're good people. So why? And I think the one of the most important answers is the community. It's creating the community. It's creating the network, the friendship, the people you team with, and it's also a community that expands. It's a fellowship also with the older generation, because it's also why do the older people come in also? Because it's not always well paid, and it's you know, there's other things to do. But you know, they also, you know, I mean, I see it in Prague, like the old guy would get dressed up and be such an important moment for him to walk to the school that once a week, you know, because why? Because it's conveying something. It's culture is living there somehow, and so it's absolutely essential, and it'll keep changing. And I'm optimistic that AI can't replace it. I think it's like the calculators of the 70s that didn't replace our need to calculate in our mind how math works as well. So that's the big reason. And the second one is the less positive one. It's still in some way about access. It was very clear when it was only these 5 people could see this editing machine, and they'll be the editors for life. And it's not like that anymore, but it still is an access point. Mm-hmm. And that's where, because we were talking about that too, schools have a responsibility about who comes and how they're treated there and what the opportunities are given there. And that actually can help with some of the issues that are still living and that we're talking about now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I think memories I have from the film school I went 23 years ago are amazing, and I wouldn't change it, and I would go back if I had the chance. I would go back to the film school. Because growing up in Athens, although I did have a massive desire to learn about the magic of making films, I didn't have the access to, I didn't know anybody in the film industry. I didn't know how the industry worked. We didn't have film schools back then in Athens, apart from the Stavrakos school John mentioned earlier on. So my only actually way to familiarize myself and learn about the practical aspects of filmmaking was to go into film school. And I had no experience whatsoever about the practical aspects of filmmaking. And I also couldn't speak English back then. So I had been rejected by every film school on the continent, and I had one offer from Northern Film School in England. And I didn't want to take my chances on it. And so I had put a friend of mine who was more fluent in English to do the interview for me. I was listening over the phone, and I was telling him, yeah, tell him this, tell him that, and all that stuff, right? So this is one of the anecdotes I was telling you the other day. And I was admitted into the film school. That was a prime opportunity. I found myself learning from people who knew a lot more than I did. I actually knew nothing about filmmaking, right? But so I had to learn from more experienced people who are now working in Hollywood in many capacities. So I was learning from them, but I had the desire to learn. I had it in me that I went to film school consciously knowing that I'm gonna make films one day. And I learned by observing. And yes, I think at film schools, this rock and roll we had, like for putting the cameras into a van, the truck, preparing for film shoots and doing the goddamn shot, if I can say that, was all about part of this camaraderie atmosphere that you had in film school, that you had to learn to work in a team. You have to learn to collaborate, communicate first and foremost. I don't think humans know how to communicate, even when they get to the 50s, right? And I think that's the primary skill you need when you're making films. Communicate what you want to achieve and what you want to get. And end of story. And communicating is one thing. Learning to collaborate is another thing. And working as a team is another thing. And all these things are part of the education we call going into a film school or going into a department that teaches both filmmaking and the aesthetics of cinema, which is what we do here in Greece. And if you ask me, I do prefer that because it gives you broader horizons. But when you get into a postgraduate level, that you may want to go into film school to actually hone those skills you were taught at the film uni, at uni. So I think there are going to film school is one of the best options a young man or woman have in their palette, I think.
How are we doing for time? Are we?
We 6 minutes after. So
We're 6 minutes out, so we need to wrap up. So I think that the next 2 minutes, maybe we can hear if you have any questions or if you have any comments or reactions to anything that's been said here, AI or film school or yes.
I just want to add something. I feel like we were talking about the tools. It's not like a question, it's like, just I want to add this as a statement. We do have the tools. Yes, I do have an iPhone, but I do not know how to use it. Yes, there is YouTube out there, but I still need my professors to show me the way. And I get that we cannot like go to a film and then have our teachers show us how to do this and what to press to like 100 people, 100 students. But I would really love that still. Yes, we do have ChatGPT, we do have AI. It is a tool. I feel like we use it for the wrong purposes. And in a way like, yes, I'm not gonna make a movie with AI or ChatGPT. I don't want that because it's like, it's like I'm an artist and I have my brush and I don't actually use it. It's like I have a machine and just, I don't know. It's not right for me personally. And yeah, what I want to say is that we still need that guidance. I feel like as human beings, we still want that connection with the other and the teacher and the student. Yes, a machine is cool, is a tool. It can make our job easier, but that's it, not like create the whole thing, like our ideas, our creative ideas, our stories. I feel like there's emotion there, and that's a nice thing to actually add. I think that's it, yeah. What I want to say.
And a final comment. I remember I was teaching until recently in the graduate program, documentary and culture and documentary filmmaking, something like that, in the University of the Aegean. And the assignment I put my students to do was to make a media program proposal for their student film. I'm deeply honored that I still find those students been working in different capacities in the industry and thanking me for teaching them how to do proposals, how to put a proposal together. Because to put a proposal together takes to make a treatment, to write a screenplay, at least the first draft, to have a marketing strategy, to have a financing strategy, and so many other things that the proposal itself leads you to learn. That's a final comment. And I don't think ChatGPT or any other online tool can structure your thought in order to structure a proposal that will be approved. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. I have maybe one more anecdote that would maybe wrap up what we just discussed. Recently, I was working on a film from a Chinese director, a debutant, and in China, you know, I think you have some film schools, but he came from a very small village, so he didn't have access. We were talking a lot about having access, and having access to the film school is actually already a privilege, you know. So he didn't have that. So his entire film school was YouTube and watching Nouvelle Vague, French Nouvelle Vague films on YouTube. That's how he learned narrative. That's how he learned storytelling and also the craft of filmmaking. And then he went into his village and he did a beautiful documentary that just won CPH. And then ever since he's winning every next festivals. It's an art house documentary shot in black and white about a boy that is writing a poetry in Chinese. And it's another beautiful local story that resonated everywhere when he went, without a proper film school. But what I would like to say is, going back to what you said, George, that there needs to be this desire to learn and genuine need to share stories. That's also what you said, and then for people that don't have access, I would say that this film definitely, it's called Always. You can You can find it probably somewhere soon online, but it's still on festivals. Probably will go to also will be screened here in Greece, so check it. It's a beautiful piece of film. But so there might be exceptions, but whenever you have an access to collective work, which I think Deming, that's the name of the director, is really missing, because he was really alone with his camera, with his own editing. He did everything by himself. So there are exceptions, but the need, this desire to learn, also learning by observing. That's what he did. That was this YouTube film school that he had. And so whenever you have an opportunity to get to be accepted to the film school, that's already an amazing step into the film world. That's for sure.
Could I add something to this?
Absolutely.
That relates to whoever writes music or make films. No one is gonna teach you anything. You have to learn yourselves. Everybody in these crafts, being a novelist, a screenwriter, a musician, or a filmmaker, have been taught themselves. They're all autodidacts, what we call autodidacts, right? There's no way you can come to the university and I can tell you everything you want to know about screenwriting if you don't put the effort yourselves. And the effort comes in with watching movies, reading screenplays, and writing screenplays. You are never gonna learn anything. So no matter what I tell you, if you don't put the effort and if you don't have the desire, no one's gonna teach you anything about these things. And that's why I cringe, if I can use a verb from my verbal palette, is when I hear people saying I'm an autodidact. But everybody's an autodidact in the capacities I mentioned, right? There are very few people who actually have formal education. And going to film school is not a formal education. It's about learning the very special techniques of your very refined specialization you've chosen, right? It's different from learning about making cinema to the process of making cinema. It's two different aspects. And I think whoever wants to actually make it into this kind of creative industries have to put the effort themselves. And the effort, as I said, is sitting on a chair and do the actual work yourself. That's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your comments, and thank you to the panelists.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's get off this.